Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Beyond Sundays, Loving Our Neighbors Well. This is a podcast where we talk to people in the community. We have conversations about what they're doing to love their neighbors well. And today we have some special guests on the show. We have Debbie Merrick and we have Danielle Gargiulo.
Very good.
Got it first time out. And so they are here to talk to us about mental health and to talk about two programs, I should say two organizations that they have been a part of. One they started, but we really want to have a dialogue and discussion around mental health and what it means to this generation and ways that we can support them and also support our youth in this area. We know it's a very taboo topic, so thank you guys for taking it on. So let's start with a few questions. First of all, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? Let's start with Debbie.
Sure.
My name's Debbie Merrick. I have three kids. One is 21 years old and studying abroad, and the second one is 19 in Alabama at Auburn, and my son is in high school. He's 16. Okay. And I have been living here since the oldest was 3. So that makes, whatever the math is. Yeah. And I retired from JP Morgan about 12 years ago. And I have been just dedicating myself to things mostly youth related. I've started running clubs. I've been stuff on the PTA. I've coached track. I've coached soccer. And then I started the mental health committee in town. I was also on our municipal alliance, which is around substance use prevention. And then we expanded the campaign to multiple towns, so it's called Paint the Town Green for Mental Health Awareness Month. And then Danielle and I met, and we started this new foundation called the Mindful Generation. So.
All right, great. Danielle?
So similar story to Deb. I have 3 children as well.
3 is the magic number.
3 is the magic number. 4th grade, 5th grade, and 8th grade. So we're still in the thick of it. And similarly,
will be.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think that goes away. That doesn't change. And then I was also in the corporate world for about 17 years, retired a few years ago, as my husband likes to remind me that I retired. So this is my chapter 2, and I've been extremely passionate about mental health, and was really wanting to branch out and create some type of awareness or education specifically for youth, as I, myself kind of wish that those resources had existed when I was growing up, but it was just a different time, and parents had limited information and access, and so last year we were trying to do similar things, and everyone kept saying, you and Debbie should really meet. You guys are really trying to do very similar stuff. And then we did. And
now we're like sisters.
And now, well, we often say that it's really, together we make up one whole functioning person.
Oh,
so
nice.
That's
true.
Yeah. And we finish each other's sentences all the time now. So.
Right. So you're like an old married couple already.
Yes, yeah.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about the inspiration behind this. So help us understand what was at the core and center of, what was your triggering event, or what was your catalytic event that said, you know what, it's time to do something to make a difference in this space?
For me, I think it was reading the book, The Anxious Generation. And, I think that Jonathan Haidt really painted a very clear picture with a lot of data and research that spoke to what I think a lot of parents knew was happening, but didn't really have all the data and all the, evidence to back that up. And I think there's a quote from Maya Angelou that says, now that you, and I'll butcher this, but, once you know something, then you have that responsibility to do something about it. And I think that I feel a deep responsibility to change the trajectory for our kids. And, that's something that I think now we know these things. And, I think a lot of experts are likening this to kind of the big tobacco moment in history, where it was like, once all the responsible adults in the room knew that tobacco was harmful for kids, but before doing something about it. And so we're in that moment now, I think, where we know that our children are really set up to fail in so many ways from a mental health perspective. And, we really have a responsibility to do something.
Excellent. Perfect. What about you, Debbie?
So before I got to this moment, because we both came to it around the same time around what Jonathan Haidt came out with, my daughter who is the one that's 21, was having some different anxiety, and she had something called a emetophobia, which is a fear of throwing up, and it led to like irrational thinking that I was like, I don't understand this. I don't understand why you're thinking that way. And I struggled with it, and then I really started to research and try to understand her feelings and understand how to help her, and it was really hard. And so through that journey, we are so tight because we learned so much from each other through it. And at the time I had been retired, so I had the time and the means and the ability to find resources and help to help her. And I realized how difficult it was for me and how many other people don't have that time or resources or energy and to help. So I was like, I got to do more to help others. And so that's what led me to help with starting the New Providence Mental Health Advocacy and Education Committee. And then we met, and then we did an event at the high school where we brought, we had 400 people across, maybe it was 200 people, sorry, wrong thing. 200 people across 5 different districts, and we watched the movie Screenagers, and we had a Q&A, and there was a little young lady in the audience, maybe 16 or 17 years old, and she said, well, if we don't have our cell phones, what do we do? And where do we go? And it was like this big aha moment where like they don't even know what life can be or what they can do. So that was where we were then very super motivated to like really make a difference and to start the foundation, the Mindful Generation. So
Great. Really appreciate that. So I'm gonna make sure I get this right. The New Jersey Crosstown Mental Health Coalition. That is the one that you are chairperson of, right?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
So when we had started the Paint the Town Green campaign, I was in the process of like trying to get the gas station in town, New Providence Fuel, to paint their windows. And in walks Ray Freeney, who is head of the mental health advocates and the Rotary Mental Health Advocates. And he was like, oh, and he introduced himself and he gave me his card. And since then has become like our
Yes, but we also just say it's like two moms and Ray. Like he is another. He's a founding member of the organization, and he really has a ton of experience and helps to guide us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But he's wonderful.
He makes so many connections for us. He guides us. He's a voice of reason because we both are little like, well, let's do all this. And
Yeah.
He's just like brings us down a little.
Yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, he was like, can you come to one of my Rotary mental health advocacy groups and talk to these other communities about what you're doing? And so we did that, and then we started to, we partnered with the Mental Health Association of New Jersey as well, and they put up on the website, here's how you can paint the town green. So then we got Summit involved, and we got Berkeley Heights involved, and our vision was always to like have all of Springfield Avenue covered with ribbons and with painted windows and yard signs, and so that people were all taking reducing the stigma and making this like a real, like we all have mental health challenges, and we all need to talk about it. We need to help each other. So that was kind of the vision, and then it's just been growing. So now we're up to 11 towns this year, maybe a couple more, but and we're doing a big kickoff in Summit on May 1st. So
Great. You heard the challenge, all of Springfield Avenue. So join them in the challenge. That's great work. Danielle, tell me a little bit more about the advocacy work with the Mindful Generation, and what do you want to really accomplish with that?
So I think that, like I had mentioned before, I think that kids currently are set up to fail in a number of different ways. I think that technology, originally when we both got into, trying to make change around mental health, we had no notion of it being around technology usage, right? I think that what we then found was that there is such a roadblock between kids having happy and healthy lives and the use of, screens in general, and whether that's a smartphone, an iPad, video games. Actually, I think it was just a couple days ago that the ruling came out that Meta and others were found, guilty, liable for these platforms being addictive by design. And so, the most powerful companies and the most powerful people in the world are creating platforms that are taking the time and attention of our kids and really robbing them of childhood in so many ways. And parents are set up to fail because these devices are so addictive. And then once, your kid's the only one not on it, that can actually be isolating. And so, Jonathan Haidt talks a lot about collective action and how vital that is to making change. And so, the New Providence School District has been amazingly supportive. Dr. Zerpeli, the superintendent's been wonderful in allowing us to kind of help educate parents and families, because it has to be a collective community effort to protect kids. And, we had in the fall a 4-part series for parents on the book, The Anxious Generation, and community conversations. And a lot of parents showed up because I think a lot of parents are struggling right now with how to navigate this, because it is so unprecedented and it is so difficult. And you don't want your kid to be isolated, but you also want them to live in the real world.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think, we can kind of level that against some adult men who are stuck in gaming worlds.
Yes. Well, and it's not just phones. I think there's a lot of young men who are addicted to video games. And, there's all these psychological tactics that are being deployed in these video games. And it's really, I understand that they're trying to get the most the most time on these platforms, but at what cost, No,
I agree with that. So Debbie knows this, but I'm a scientist. And so I'm a product development scientist. And so I've worked in the over-the-counter medicine space and partnered with a lot of pharmaceutical space too. When I was with J&J, for example, it was the consumer arm and the pharmaceutical arm. Same thing with GSK. And so we're constantly looking into research. And a lot of what we discover, especially when it comes to cognitive abilities being altered and brain chemistry is being altered. And oftentimes, our job is to try to help rebalance that, and maybe it's therapeutic. But I like what you guys are looking at, which is the non-therapeutic ways to help retrain without necessarily the intervention of a therapeutic. Now, it should be there if you need it, because some kids really do need it. But if there are other ways that we can help retrain cognitively what is impacting our kids, just by creating that space to get away from the phones and the devices, I think is really important. So what would your hopes be? You guys are into year 3, 4, but if you had a magic wand.
Sometimes we like to think we do.
Listen, in a sense you do, because you're being a voice for those who can't speak for themselves. And you're highlighting things that people should care about. That's why we wanted you on here, Loving My Neighbor, as well, because people should be aware of this and people should be caring about this because of the long-term impact. And if you really love all kids, you want to make sure we're providing the best for them and the best for their future. And so sometimes you may butt up against systems and structures and things like that, and we're here to support you. But if you did have a magic wand, what would you change, or what would the future look like for these kids?
I think that for me, it would be that there would be protections in place legislatively for kids that protected them from these addictive features, and that happens at the legislative aspect. And then I think that the norms would change in a way that we would revert back to a childhood similar to how a lot of us grew up, with a lot more free play, a lot more time spent with friends. And, I think that in the age of AI, and I think the way that, things are evolving so quickly, I think interpersonal skills and communication skills and the human aspect of this next generation is actually going to be their superpower as it relates to who's going to get hired and who's going to be super successful. Because I think that, there are going to be certain things that technology is going to be able to do, but, what we're investing in this generation is not just for them to have a happy, healthy childhood, but it's also, how they're going to be successful as adults.
Yeah.
And the fact that a lot of kids right now are so socially isolated or can't have a conversation or find that difficult because they're communicating with, a chat bot instead, or they're just doom scrolling. That's really not only robbing them of childhood, but I think that's really not setting them up to be a successful adult. So I think that it would be a lot more just the way that we grew up, with just, and delaying that to the extent that we can, and then teaching the kids how to use technology intentionally and mindfully, and all about balance and the social emotional skills, emotional regulation, the things that kids are really struggling with right now. Attention fragmentation that's coming from short form content. Kids are swiping so quickly that it's changing neural pathways in their brains, and their attention spans are less and less and less. And so, I think that it's just, letting kids be bored. And understanding that creativity and, really wonderful things come from those moments. And so I think it's just slowing things down a lot for our kids and taking away access to things that were never intended to be for kids in the first place.
Excellent.
I think I would probably add two things if I can remember the second one. But the first one is around social emotional skills in the schools, and I feel like, and I've said this in many different forums, that it's as important or more important than math and science and all these other subjects. If we don't have those core abilities to communicate, to be resilient, et cetera, we're not going to do well in life. And so, we need to really make those a priority in schools. And so I'd like to see them measured, and where a kid needs more help in those spaces, then help them. And not just be like this thing that we teach is, we're going to put SEL here and there, but we don't to really teach it it is as important as it really is. And then the second one would be, I really wish that every parent would almost have to take parenting skills around some of these topics, know the data. And I am the first person to say I have made mistakes, and it is really hard to, with the tech, to control it and to do it the right way. So to give ourselves grace as parents, because nobody's perfect. But if we knew if I knew all the stuff before, I would have done things differently. Now, would have I have done it perfectly? Absolutely not. But would I have been somewhere here, a little bit in the between, where my kids don't have some of those, addictive things going on and other mental health issues that come? I think so. So I think that's it. How do we educate parents? And it's hard. You run a parenting workshop and you only get 30 or 40 people to show up. It's hard. And I know everybody's busy and everyone has priorities, but I when we went to St. Mary's in Westfield.
St. Paul's.
St. Paul's, sorry, in Westfield. Please dupe that out and fix that. It was eye-opening to hear, some of the data around preschoolers not being able to self-regulate at such a young age, and that, if you wish you could tell parents, you need, don't put a screen in front of them. These kids need a hug. They need a walk. They need to sit with you and read a book to self-regulate, not go on a screen.
Yeah, and I mean the usage, even in the youngest age groups, is so scary. I mean, the amount of 0 to 2 year olds that are using YouTube daily, and 2 to 4 year olds, and I mean it's just 52% of 2 year olds have their own iPad. And it's, so I think that it's just become, there's certain norms that now I think if we can reverse course and raise awareness and education as to why it's damaging, I think, parents will be inclined to listen, because everybody wants what's best for their kids. I think it's an awareness and education as to the damage that, now we have the data that some of these things have done or can do.
I agree. I have a lot of examples in my own family where I've seen this and seen what it does to kids 0 to 2, and I'm amazed at what locks them in at such a young age. And so and it just sets them up for all types of predatory things if you're not careful, and no one is watching that. So it's a real problem. So what would you, and I want to talk about a occupation that has to deal with a lot of this, teachers. Are you guys engaged? What are you hearing from teachers, and how can you,
Thank you.
help them? Yeah.
I mean, thank you, right? And
Yeah.
they're so happy that we are raising this issue because they see it in the classrooms every day, and they were fighting the cell phones. They still are in Westfield and other districts that have not gone phone free yet. So, and that, I mean, the attention, the ability for these kids to pay attention longer than 30 seconds. It's like it's scary.
Yeah.
And even the study habits that they're getting from the way they use tech at home and in the schools it needs to change.
Yeah. Responsibility is key. All right, so we spent some time talking about some of the things we're concerned about, fearful about, state of where things are. Tell us about some successes in the work that you've done. Let's kind of end on some happy notes. What are some of the successes that you guys have seen?
So I would say, there's a wonderful organization that we have up on our website as an aligned organization. It's called Wait Until 8th. And so their whole message is that if we can collectively delay the use of smartphones until the end of 8th grade, then your kid won't feel like they're the one that's isolated, right? And then the parents are, more, everybody's on the same page. So through our organization, we have a mindful team. That's a Wait Until 8th team. And we have a group of wonderfully passionate mothers in New Providence. And we have one rep for each grade within both AWR and Saltbrook. And we meet on a monthly basis, and we talk about how we're going to raise awareness and education. And we have a number of grades. We've seen, doubling and tripling in percentages since, the start of the school year. And I think in 3rd grade, we have like 70% of the kids that are now, the families have pledged to wait. And I think that's changing the norm, right? Because those kids are going to get to middle school, and 70% of them are not going to be sitting there on a phone, and their experiences then by default will be different.
On a smartphone, right? I think the one
correct, yes, sorry.
nuance that people think is that waiting till 8th grade means you can't have a phone or a cell phone, and that's not what it's about. It's about some of the dangerous things about a smartphone. So
correct.
Yeah.
So basically just not having internet access. So calls and texts and GPS, you can still have a lot of different pockets of, the things that are useful and helpful. But, the average teen currently spends 7.5 hours a day on their phone non-productively. So that's not including communication, text messaging, and calling. And when you average that out over the course of an 80-year lifespan, that's almost 20 years of their life.
Wow.
So I think
of all the things you could have done.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a success, I would say, the Wait Until 8th. And then we have also partnered with the New Providence School District in talking about digital agency curriculum that they're going to be introducing next year that's going to teach the kids about balanced intentional use of technology. We've partnered with them to bring in a speaker, Project Reboot, that's specific to that I think is going to put on a great program for the students. It's going to kick off the initiative.
And not only that, we've got Dr. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name. What district? They're also doing it too.
Dr. Mateo in Ramsey.
In Ramsey. So
yes.
we've engaged other districts. So there's things that are starting to happen in other places. So they're doing Project Reboot as well, which is good.
Which is wonderful. We're
in Westfield now talking to preschools. So we're trying to get to the younger parents, hopefully in the fall, to raise awareness to them as well, so that we can start to change the trajectory.
And I think a lot of schools have been hesitant to align with certain outside organizations when it comes, and New Providence has been so wonderful in, that this is aligned with their strategic goal of teaching kids how to use tech intentionally and mindfully and have balance. And they're allowing us to come in May and have a Wait Until 8th info session. And also there's a gentleman in New Providence that's going to help to teach parents about the parental controls features, because he worked for Google and he's wonderfully, because even some of those things seem like, we had one parent in our session say it feels like managing their technology feels like a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so how can we help parents and get them the resources and make that easier and more successful? And so we've had a lot of engagement, a lot of wonderful volunteers and parents really kind of rally together in the best interest of the kids. So I would say that, it's not all doom and gloom, and we've seen a lot of change already. And we're hoping to just kind of keep doing more of that until we change more norms.
Point out a few things like in the New Providence School District itself, because of the changes. The lunchrooms are super loud. They're playing board games, and it is such a vibrant space. Where before it was everybody sitting next to each other on their phones. So that's a big change. More books have been checked out this fall than they were the previous fall. So there's kids are playing spike ball during lunch too, after they eat. So it is
and recess in middle school was implemented,
was brought back.
So small wins, and I think that's just it's all about baby steps and local community changes that are going to hopefully make a big impact.
This is beautiful. I would love to. My brain is starting to fast forward here. For the month of May, Paint the Town Green. Maybe we do a little walking tour with you guys into the school to see some of the impact that you're having. I'd love to see some of these noisy cafeterias if the teachers will let us in there. But yeah, let's start to get some real world evidence of some of the impact that you guys are having. I think that's great for that month. So let's think about that. All right, we're going to wrap up soon, but 2 last questions. In the next year or 2, what is it that you would like to accomplish with these outreaches? And then, more importantly, how can we and those viewing online help you guys in that initiative?
So Debbie and I have a very long wish list of all the different programs and communities that we are wanting to either create or get involved with. So I think it's a lot of them just are around supporting parents mostly.
Okay.
And engaging with districts when applicable, when they're receptive. So whether that's, getting into conversations about the anxious generation or about some of these topics with other organizations and building tools
assets for them.
But it all, I think a lot of it is Debbie and I are 2 people, and we only have so much time and resources, and so we're trying to engage some experts or create, other programs that aren't necessarily just Debbie and I delivering this material. So that way it can be more, broad, the reach can be broader. So I think it's really just building out our network of folks who can kind of help us in this mission.
Yeah, and so we've been fortunate enough to have an expert, Colleen LaRock, who is a professor at NYU, help build a little curriculum that we're delivering in May and then in the fall. But in addition to that, we don't really have any money to pay her, or very little. So that's where I think fundraising, any sort of way
if
that we can
anybody
raise money for our organization.
Right. I feel like we could really use somebody to help us fundraise.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of volunteers that are out there, that are doing some of the other work that we talked about. But I think because our time is we're so passionate about the programs, we tend not to have as much time.
I can't get Google Workspace to really work for us. I messed it up. So even though I was in technology for a long time, I'm having a problem with my tech. My tech person.
We got somebody who might be able to help with that. Yeah.
So
and we want to implement our a better tool for CRM, so to reach the donors and our any of the people that we want to help. So stuff like that. So
operationally, I think that's where
we have great volunteers, but we like to help in scaling what we are trying to bring to as many people as we can.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so if people online that are listening to this want to get involved, how do they contact you guys? Or what's the best way to access to get involved with this?
Sure. So you can go to our website, which is www.themindfulgeneration.org. And there are links to both of our email addresses. So feel free to shoot us an email. There's a link to donate. We appreciate any and all support. And,
there's multiple mindful teams that we have working around free play, around wait until 8th, around legislative and policy changes that we're working on. What am I missing? Digital agency curriculum, whether that's policy or broader for legislatively, what would we want?
AI awareness. I think that AI awareness is a big piece because I think that people think about the dangers of AI, and I think they think more especially educationally, kids not learning necessarily. But I think there's also the social and emotional piece of that, where we see so many kids engaging with chatbots on a regular basis and the dangers that it poses to mental health.
Yeah.
So I think that just specifically how AI is impacting or can impact our kids' mental health is another kind of focus group that we think is important.
Great, great, great. All right, give you guys the last word as we close out on Paint the Town Green. What are some of the activities that are going to happen? How can people get involved with that? Now's your opportunity to give a couple seconds promo on that event.
Okay, so Paint the Town Green has several aspects. You can buy a yard sign in which it just says Mental Health Awareness Month, and on the back you can pick a message. So the yard signs you can order from going to the Coalition website, which I'll give to you in a minute, or you can participate in actually painting. Our kids do it, but we need some parent volunteers as well, or any student that doesn't necessarily see the sign up at school, or if they're maybe not in the district but they are at a different school but live in town, they're welcome to help us. I would say contact me at the Mindful Generation, the same email to do that, and I can hook you up on our schedule to paint. We're going to be tying ribbons as well, and then there's going to be all sorts of events. For example, we're doing a mini Anxious Generation conversation at the Y. We're doing a mini, we're calling it Project Humanity, which is around sort of the AI skills and how to be human for middle school kids at the Y as well. There's some suicide prevention trainings at the Y as well. There'll be like some meditation, some yoga, various mental health activities that various organizations, not only in New Providence, but in the 11 towns that are participating in this. So we have a calendar, which is also on our website, and that will be available probably within the next 2 weeks to see everything in May.
Perfect, perfect.
And don't forget, the kickoff will be May 1st on the Green in Summit.
May 1st.
5 o'clock.
You guys have that. Listen, ladies, thank you for being on this episode. Beyond Sundays, Loving My Neighbors Well. We're going to invite you back, get some updates sometime soon. So hopefully you got some time in your calendar for that.
Absolutely.
For you,
Great.
we will.
Yeah.
Excellent. And thank you guys for joining us on this latest episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.